So not too long ago, we went ahead and did a driver side wheel hub on the Duramax. Well, ever since I straight axle swapped this thing, I've had steering issues. I replaced power steering pump several times. I've also even replaced my steering gearbox. Now the power steering pump's going out again. So since that's happening, I'm gonna take this as an opportunity to go ahead and upgrade that system, and we'll slowly do that over time until eventually I've got hydraulic ram assist steering. So I'm gonna be installing this PSC Duramax XD series high performance pump, as well as their high performance power steering fluid. And while I do that, I'm also going to go ahead and take the time to put in an inline filter on the system. That way, if something were to go wrong in the gearbox or something else, it doesn't affect our pump. This isn't everything that I'm going to need, but this is just a few of the things. I've got Prestone power steering fluid just so I could flush the system without using that, because just for those 4 bottles is about $120 worth of fluid, whereas this whole jug is like 20 bucks, 30 bucks. So we're going to use this to flush the system. I'm going to do that with the old power steering pump on, and then after we flush the system, we're going to go ahead and pull the power steering pump off, install this one, and then go ahead and purge it of air. Now, to purge the system of air, they require you to lift the truck up. That way the tires are off of the ground and you can spin them lock to lock with the vehicle not running. So we're gonna go ahead, I have the skid steer right here with the forks on. So we're gonna go ahead and pick the truck up, get it on jack stands. That way that part of things is done and out of the way. So let's make that happen. All right, so now that that's done, let's give it the good old shake test. And everything looks good. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and pop the hood. And the first thing that we'll do is take the belt off, which we're gonna need this for. So I think I'm gonna actually set up my little table here. It's not meant for standing on, but I'm gonna set that up and use that as a bench because this thing's pretty high up. So let's grab that. This is the same poor little table that you saw got burned in the root ripper video. I don't think I need to do it any higher than that. I could use the bumper, just use it as a step. Okay. Might need to get more light in there for you guys to see what's going on. Let me do that too. We got the light set up, but I was thinking about it, and the easier way to go about this would be to put our bucket down here and take our return line off and put it into that bucket, because I'm going to bleed this thing in a bit of an unorthodox way. We're still going to go ahead and get the belt off. How they tell you to bleed these things is they say to disable the engine, turn the key, and then stop, put more fluid, turn the key, then stop, put more fluid, and do that until you get nice clean fluid coming out. I've made another way to do that I'll show you guys here in a second. So let's get our return line disconnected and put our bucket underneath there. So here's our bucket, and we'll put our return line going. We'll put our return line going right there, and then we're gonna use this fancy tool to get our return line disconnected. So let's go do that. And if I'm not mistaken, can I do that through here? Yep. So I don't know how well you could see it. Matter of fact, let me get you in a little closer. If I can. So this line right here is the return line. So we're gonna go ahead and pop that off, and we're gonna aim it to where it's down in our bucket. So put you back up there, and let's get that done. So now we're gonna break that belt off, or we're gonna remove that belt. But before we do that, we're gonna grab this, which is it's just a bunch of electrical tape I've wrapped to span this distance and this, and I'll show you why here in a second. We'll set that up here. Okay. We're gonna put this out of the way for now. We're gonna go ahead and pop that belt off. So we're gonna So now when I pull this up, it'll come all the way up to this mount. This will come off. We'll take this, let this back down, and we'll leave that ratchet in there. I'm gonna take this and twist it up here so that belt doesn't come off of any other pulleys. So now our power steering pump pulley is free, and we're full on fluid. Oh, now it's draining itself because I took the cap off. Anyway, our pulley is free now, and I know that it rotates this way. The reason why is because I actually bled this fluid the other day trying to see if it was just air in the power steering, but unfortunately for me it was not. So anyway, we can pull this. Well, I don't want it to drain out of the bottom. So our unorthodox way is with our homemade belt. We'll put this down on the front right here, and with our drill, that's the wrong way. Okay, with our drill rotating this way, and something so we don't burn our hands. That's how we're gonna bleed our system. And it's actually already bleeding. So that was our first round, but I'm gonna top this thing back off, and we're gonna run the entire thing of Prestone through here just to make sure that there's absolutely nothing in there that could damage our new power steering pump. So we're gonna go ahead and do that a couple more times, and I'll get back to you guys once we start pulling the pump off. Now that you've seen my unorthodox way of flushing the system, we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get this power steering pump removed. That way we can get the other one put in. So that'll be the next thing. I'll gather up my sockets and get this thing off of here. All right, so if I'm not mistaken, and I am, these are 15s, aren't they? I knew that. I don't know why. Came here with 3/4, knowing that they were 15s. All right, so now let's go ahead and get these off. So we got 3 in the front, and then there's 2 in the back. Should have brought my magnet tray up here, but we'll just dump them over there for now. Unfortunately, on the 07.5 to 13, or maybe even newer, but I don't know, you can get to all this and then pull your pulley once you get off, which in our case we don't need to pull the pulley, but on the 07 and lower, all these bolts are behind the pulley and you cannot get to them unless you pull that pulley off. So we're pretty fortunate in this case. And I know you guys still don't have a ton of light down there. Let's see, are you gonna fall? Yep, it looks like it wants to fall, so give me a second. Okay, so now the pump is about to be free. So put this up here out of the way. Put this up here. Okay, so now our pump is free, and in the back there's a 16mm fitting back there, and that line runs from the back of the pump to right here. So if we wanted to, we could break it there to get us more leverage, and we'll see how I feel about that here in a second. But if I'm not mistaken, there should be more than enough room. Let me put my other glove on. There should be more than enough room to get it without having to do that. So let's see. So now we've got it up to where we can get to it. And I'm going to use our 16 flex head to get on here and break that off. So I went ahead and brought that nut with us, and now you can see what I'm talking about. So there's a rear bracket here. So we're gonna break this, and this bracket we have to transfer onto the back of there, and then we'll need to go ahead and pull our pulley off the front so we can remove this front bracket and install it on there as well. So I'm gonna get some napkins, that way I can put down, because this thing is probably still gonna have fluid in it. And then we'll remove this bracket, set it to the side, and then remove our pulley. Put that bracket over there. Flip this around to the front. And go ahead and install our pulley remover. A little bit more. All right, so we're now ready to pull. We're walking away from the camera here. So now we got that off. You can see we've got 3 brackets or 3 bolts here that we need to pull, and then this one if we're going to go ahead and use our line clip, which we will. So I'm going to set the pulley to the side. We're going to go ahead and switch our socket back. So we're done with this. We don't need this anymore. We're gonna put it to the side. Now we need to bring over our PSC pump. And luckily, PSC makes it really, really easy for us. Just remove our 6 bolts for our pulley. We'll set that to the side. And then it's as simple as putting this right back on there the way that it just came off. So let's go ahead and do that. Now the one on this side, I'll show you here in a second, but the one on this side is closer underneath there, so you can't really use an impact on it, which I'm not going to be using an impact on this new power steering pump anyway. I'm going to go ahead and tighten them with a wrench. So let me grab the 15 off of the truck. Okay, we're going to go ahead and tighten them. Now, if you're looking for proper torque specs, I'm not your guy. I don't know what the torque specs are on these. I've been a mechanic for a long while now, honestly. Pretty much all of my adult life. So, I just kind of tighten them and I can know when they'll be good. So we got those on there. We're gonna go ahead and add our bracket as well. Which, honestly, there may be no point because this doesn't reach, but we'll put it on there just for the sake of putting it on there. Then we'll flip it over before we put our pulley on, and we will put this bracket back on. And it goes just like that. So there we go. And that's your brackets back on there. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get the pulley on the front buttoned up. I do know the torque specs for that. That's 13 inch-pounds on those with some red Loctite. So we're gonna go ahead and put those to torque since they are rotating. And then I'll see you guys when we're ready to put this back in the truck. All right, so here's our PSC pump with everything torqued. We also have our filter, which it says flow this way. So this is gonna come from our steering gearbox, and this side's gonna go into the pump pretty much right there. So we're gonna go ahead and get that installed, and then we'll go through the whole bleeding procedure. Pretty much what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the already existing line. I'm just gonna cut it. You only need one worm drive because you've already got a clamp on your other side. So I'll show you guys how we're gonna do that. So first thing we're gonna do is go ahead and reconnect our hydraulic line down there. So we gotta get this one out. Of course, I didn't bring a screwdriver up here with me. we go. We're gonna go ahead and tighten it with our long wrench. I'm recording. So now we've got it installed. I've also added our filter, which is sitting right there. And there's 2 returns, so we could add a filter here on this one as well. I've seen that most people don't, because you don't really have anything to go wrong in there. There's just a diaphragm. Whereas in there is where you'll shred gears and you'll see pieces of metal. I have a second filter in case I change my mind, but for now, we're just gonna go with the one. And I'm gonna get this filled up with our fluid and I'm gonna start the bleeding process. We got the power steering pump on there. We got the bleeding procedure done. And the rest of the bleeding procedure pretty much just says test drive it. Anytime you hear aeration or anything, go ahead, stop, let the bubbles dissipate, add more fluid if you need be, and go from there. So that'll be the end of this video, or that'll be the end of this project. I kind of rushed at the end and not showed you guys because I have a job that I need to be at. And also simultaneously, my dad showed up in town about 30 minutes ago. So that kind of tells you the timeline of when all this is happening. If you've been watching the channel for a while. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this video here. See you in the next video so you can see what job we had to leave to go get done.